people can smell desperation, especially in a salesperson. So if you come in from a sense of following up on a house, don't follow up just to follow up. That really makes it feel transactional. And most people are not ready to make a decision within the next 3 weeks.
Hey, what is up, everyone? Back again for another Clever Genius podcast. And today I have a really awesome guest and friend. His name is Joseph Trahan, super successful realtor out in Virginia Beach. He's killing it, and he's only been a licensed agent for how long you say, Joe? Like 3 years at this point? 2 years, 2.5
3 years as of last month. Yeah, and it's been a wild ride. I've been in here in the business, as I say, long enough to know better, but learn it every day.
Awesome. Yeah. So brand new agent, but he's doing great. And I wanted to have him come on because I wanted to give him or have him give you some insight on some just basic tips, tricks, and strategies that you can kind of steal or take away based off of his experience. So hopefully you can try to gain the same amount of success that he's had. By the way, quick preface to this conversation, Joe, you moved to Virginia Beach. You weren't born and raised there. So it's not like you had an existing sphere to run with. You had to kind of start a bit from scratch a little bit, right?
Absolutely. Started from ground zero for sure. Yeah. Yes.
All right. Awesome. Well, if that's the case, hey, let's go ahead and get started now. I want to get started first, but if you can, just what's the quick 60-second breakdown of your background? Like, what have you done? What are you doing? And then we'll kind of go from there. Cool?
Yeah. So right now I am licensed real estate agent and also part of the Realtor Association here in the Virginia Beach area. And that's made up of a larger metropolitan area called Hampton Roads, which consists of 7 cities. I primarily work with folks buying homes and I always say, I'll be happy to sell your home, but I'd hate for you to have to leave. So I'll convince you to stay first. And then if it doesn't work out, I guess I'll sell your home as well. But yeah, just really passionate about the area. There's a lot of cool things from not only just the beach, but also the vibe here in the city, town center area as well. Largest city in Virginia. It's got a lot to offer for sure.
Love it, man. Thank you for sharing. And all right, if you're cool with it, I'd love to just dive into the nitty gritty. I want to know, in your best assessment and opinion, what are the key skills and qualities that a new real estate agent should be developing in order to be successful, really wherever they're at?
Absolutely. And, it can be really challenging and intimidating to be in the marketplace, especially as a newer agent, just because there are so many new things and nuances that most people don't know about. And I sure as, heck didn't when I started. And to start off, the brokerage I started with, the broker, took me under his wing and took me to the dance, so to speak, and kind of walked me through the basic steps and the first ability, the greatest ability in real estate is likability. Just being able to present yourself in a way that's not only trustworthy, but also shows the other person that, you're genuinely interested in their well-being and you're there to care for them. Which, to most folks doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it is the foundation of building your own business and also building your own brand because people can see right through those things that might not be that you might not be honest about, and people can really tell.
Oh, absolutely. And we were talking about it like earlier. We were talking about people hire based off of personality sometimes more over than skill. That's why likability is a big thing. Thanks for sharing, man. In terms of challenges, like what in your opinion were some of the biggest challenges that you faced? And then from that, what do you think some of the biggest challenges newer real estate agents face when they're trying to really get their sea legs in a career in real estate?
Yeah, honestly, the biggest challenge, at least for me independently, was starting my business in March of 2020 when, at least here in the United States and Virginia Beach area, the world was shutting down. So it was one of those rare moments where, my wife and I came together. We said, hey, we're going to do this together as far as supporting each other in our different careers. And so, I just, did what I could and, got in front of the camera, instantly started making content, making videos, most of them are, and even to this day, I still cringe at them, were very bad. But I tried to do everything I could to get in front of people and get that first sale. It's very intimidating being in the sales game, and I'm not a salesman at heart. So I just told myself, I need to have, a certain number of conversations a day. Typically, that can range between 8 people, but not having a sphere, I was like, I need to talk to 5 new people every week. And then I leveraged, resources within my brokerage, lending partners, people that are within the industry that are constantly talking to these folks, these potential buyers, and finding ways to bring value to them was of the utmost importance. And so within that first month, I was able to get my first sale, take a sigh of relief, and pay that next rent payment, and then do it all over again. So on a broader scale for agents, not just for me, but for agents in general, I think, finding a community of people that you could bring value to that are also going to reciprocate that back is going to be key, because that's going to help you have those conversations. And that's also going to help you develop as a business owner, because then you can begin to ask those strategic questions. How can I bring value to you? How can I help you solve this unique problem? And it's more so than just back scratching or, trying to butter somebody up, but it's how to build your brand in a way that is going to support other people's businesses. Because the last thing in this industry, at least here in Virginia Beach, is what people want are people asking for things. They more so want you to give a little, and in return, they're going to see, whether you're being authentic or not, and then make a decision from there on how and if they can support you.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. And it goes back to that big component of providing value. We just need to make sure it's about them and it's not about us. Which actually leads into the next big question. And I wonder if we can expand on this a little bit more, because I want to talk about marketing. I think one of the biggest things that is on the top of every agent's mind is lead gen. It's probably one of the most searched terms, doing some keyword research, real estate lead gen. So in your opinion, the most effective marketing strategies that, or maybe some of those strategies that you use that you can have other people kind of share or take away or steal from, that you feel would really kind of help accelerate the business?
Absolutely. And full disclaimer, I'm not an expert in this matter, but I did have the opportunity to close 15 real estate transactions my first year in the business. This is a value that are going to create conversations, more so than going for the hard ask of, hey, do you know anybody looking to buy or sell real estate? Oh, I just got my real estate license. Send all the business my way. Because that is typically a high ask and also a high risk for somebody that may not know you super well. So for me, I was looking for low stakes and really low cost association for people to, yeah, Joe, I'll have a conversation with you. I'll talk to you about some sort of thing. I don't know what it is. And so throughout this process of really talking with people and figuring out what people wanted to talk about, it came down to discovering the Virginia Beach area. So Emmanuel knows this because we helped create a whole Facebook group around this, discovering Virginia Beach. So finding ways to have conversations with people about the area, and also just mentioning that we do help people buy and sell real estate if that's a service that they need, which has been a super, easy, low risk, high reward for folks who are looking for just some general information without that hard ask and that hard sale, especially when almost every day people are being sold to, either through their phone or through print ads that they're seeing on their way to and from work. So it's about this.
I love it. I love it. Well, so you said something about like providing value and having the conversation, which is kind of leading into the next part of this. Like we can solve for lead gen, but I think oftentimes what's often missed is solving for lead nurture. I think by definition, most agents tend to think that doing follow-up calls for maybe 2 or 3 weeks is justifies or quantifies lead nurture. And sometimes it's like them just sending market trends to people. But I feel like you've figured out a different way to have more conversations to maintain the nurture process. So can you kind of talk to me about how you break down providing value to the people that you already consider a lead, or that's already inside of your sphere, that's already a prospect?
Yeah, that's really interesting of a question, because that's really in the question of every agent's mind is, okay, well,
Yeah.
what does a follow-up look like? Okay, someone liked a heart on, they put the heart icon on Zillow, right? And does that mean they're pre-qualified? Does that mean they're, in the dreaming phase, or do they even live in your state, right? So where do you go as far as a follow-up goes if you have a name and a phone number? And I always like to just try and figure out, what interested that person in that specific area first and foremost. Because if you focus on the house, then it's like, well, especially during COVID times, well, I'm sorry, that house is under contract. Do you want me to send you more houses? No. That's not an approach, because everyone's sending houses. So I'm like,
Yeah.
well, what's interesting you about this area? Oh, you have family here. Great. Well, what exactly about this area interests you to want to be close to your family, aside from your family? Like, is there anything that you like to just see or do when you visit them? And just having conversations like that. And then another thing is just don't follow up just to follow up. Hey, just following up. Hey, just checking in. That really makes it feel transactional. But this business is about likability, and through the result of being a likable person, you want to develop a relationship. Now, this doesn't have to be a deep heartthrob, Tom Hanks and You've Got Nail, where it's got this mystery and elements of deep intensity behind it, behind the screen of a computer. But no, it's just general conversations about what people might like to see in their next home or their next community. I mean, that's the conversations I'm having and are, getting conversations going. And another thing too is most people are not ready to make a decision within the next 3 weeks. And what I've typically found, especially on the social media sphere, people are sometimes 3 to 6 to sometimes even 18 months out in the process. So if you come in from a sense of following up on a house, they feel this pressure of not really understanding what you're after, because their goal isn't necessarily to make a transaction in the next 3 months. They may want to figure out about the schools, or figure out if, that might be a place they want to retire to one day. So figuring out necessarily a timeline isn't good either, but more so figuring out why it is they're interested in that area.
Oh, dude, you're absolutely right. I think one of the big focus, most agents tend to think that when they work social media or they get a lead, it's like it's now. But the now is actually the agent's timeline. It's not the lead's timeline, or it's not the person that's inquiring or interested in the property's timeline. They have their own timeline. It's us being empathetic to their timeline and abiding by when they're ready to do it, and just making sure that we're around through that process. You talked about relationships. Can you unpack that a little bit more, like maintaining the relationship? So we talked about how to create the lead, and we talked about how to nurture the lead and have a conversation. How about maintaining relationships so that we are always being present to them? And you kind of alluded to it earlier about like making sure we provide value. And you talked about the neighborhood, like, oh, you move closer to family. Well, what else aside from family? Like having a deeper conversation. But can you unpack maybe a strategy or a way of thinking with regards to maintaining the relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. And, people can smell desperation, especially in a salesperson or somebody that, like, I get it. I've been in that spot where, you're not sure where the next mortgage payment's going to come from, but you can't let that affect your conversation with other people. So a way I found to combat that for me is just having more people to talk to about more general things. That way, regardless of where they're at in the process, I can keep a cool head about where I'm at in my business, because I know that, most people aren't going to convert in the next few weeks. So I need to be talking to more people. And I just like to focus on things that revolve around Virginia Beach, revolve around fun activities, and this general theme of discovery, because, with almost, 30 miles of beachfront coastline, there's there's a lot to talk about. I mean, we have in Virginia Beach, we have over 10 different beaches, over 19 public parks, 8 public libraries, and the list goes on and on of free things that you can do in the area, which, believe it or not, when most people move to your area, they just want to figure out where the free stuff is. And sometimes that may be because it's the money in their house. But, you know, it comes back to, you know, being able to create those conversations beforehand helps you on the back end, because it's now more than a transaction. It's, hey, I'm Joe. I'm your resource before, during, and after the transaction. That way, you know, we can keep in touch. You can go explore these things when you move here, and I'll be on the sidelines if you know anybody else looking to explore what you are, or we can meet up for coffee, go check out the beach. I've bumped into clients before, like at a local park or something, and it's really cool to like just be in community together.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. I love it. And I love how you also said everything but talk about real estate or pitch, because that's kind of, I think, one of the biggest misconceptions. Like, no, it's not about pitching your services. It's about being human and creating the relationship and talking about the area, things to do, fun stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let me flip it now. We've been talking happy thoughts. I want to go to the dark and grim. Let's talk about the mistakes that you've made starting off, and what are some common mistakes that you identify now when you see newer agents that maybe they can avoid?
Yeah, I mean, a big piece of it is, and I tell this to most people I work with when it comes to real estate transactions. I mean, time and money are huge variables that can positively and negatively affect a transaction very quickly. And it can also positively and negatively quickly impact your business as well. I know one thing for me, I was so gung-ho about trying to, when I first started, get the best deal from my brokerage. And as a result of trying to, push my way into a higher split, more leads, more support, I had unfortunately severed some relationships that, I had spent probably the first half of my business year developing, that just haven't been the same since. So I would say, as you are developing relationships, if it's not a good fit, if it's not reciprocal, absolutely move on, sever that relationship, but do it in a healthy way. Don't go out guns blazing, if you will, or with the fireworks. It doesn't have to be, in the soap opera fashion of, I'll never talk to you again and burning the bridge, but rather, figuring out strategically how to bring that value and then move on from it as quickly as you can if you don't find that it's reciprocal. Another big mistake I made was, and this was part of just me trying to pay the bills, right? I was somewhat desperate to get out there. I would show houses to anybody. I was showing houses left and right. So much so, I actually have this one client. I don't think I've told you about this, Manuel, but this guy shows up, and he's got a gun on his hip. And we're showing a town here in the Hampton Roads area, and he says, "You know what? You just never know what's going to happen." I said, "Buddy, it's 4:00 on a Monday afternoon. What more could happen?" So we go around and show him this house, and all of a sudden he's pulling down his drawers and he starts urinating on the house in the backyard, right in front of me as we're talking about this property. Yeah. And I was so desperate, I went back out and showed him the next weekend. And if that wasn't a red flag enough, sure enough, he shows up again, this time with a gun on his hip and a White Claw in his hand.
Wow. So, that's interesting.
That conversation ended, that transaction, that client ended abruptly there because, he wasn't a good fit for the area. Yeah. He showed up with a gun on his hip. He probably wasn't going to be a good fit for some of the cities we were looking in. And he ended up moving to another state. So I share that weird, funny story just to say, like, don't be as desperate as I was to show a house to anybody, but figure out the type of people that you would best be able to serve. For me, it's people that are interested in learning about the community and would benefit from, where the top taco restaurants are, or a burrito wall restaurant. And then I think that the third and final thing that I'm still learning about is just figuring out how to be a producing agent, because it's one thing to get a few deals, right? You can ride pretty well. I mean, as many agents as there are, when I started, there were 5,000 agents in my marketplace. Now there's closer to 8,000. So 3,000 agents have joined within the past 3 years. And it can be very easy the average agent in my marketplace gets about 4 deals a year. It can be very easy to ride those waves and get through the bare minimum. Not saying that the bare minimum is anything wrong with it, but generally, if you're not pushing yourself to excel more, it can be really easy to just get comfortable with getting by instead of growing your brand and growing your business. And so that's why I like to surround myself with agents in my marketplace who are like-minded. That's why I'm on this podcast today talking with you, just figuring out opportunities where I can excel and grow my business, because I don't want to just ride the line, ride the wave. So, for those of you listening, like if that's something where you don't want to just be the average agent, you want to go out there and get deals done and make things happen. I mean, you're on the right track listening to this. And, it definitely comes down to building out those relationships and then finding ways to bring value, to help scale it and produce in your business.
I dig it. All right. Very, very helpful insight. Next big question for you, because I would love to know how you unpack this. Break down your day, because I think time management is a lost art form, and I know you kind of figured some of that part out. So tips, tricks, strategies, like how do you break down and you manage your time throughout the day?
Oh my goodness, yeah, this has been a fun one. I've had to refine it through different seasons of life, and I definitely one of the trainings that Manuel has done through Square One Group is just called the 6-week cycle. So just figuring out how you plug in your business and your systems. And for me, it's been broken down into where I find my highs and my lows during my day. So for example, for me, we're currently fostering a 5-year-old who gets up at 6:30 in the morning. So naturally, I'm not able to do work once the 6:30 human alarm clock goes off. So what I've done is I've actually carved out some time in my morning to go to a coffee shop. I normally get there around 4:30, and from 4:30 to 7, I hammer through my most essential tasks for the day that I can automate and systematize, like social media, like outreach, like tracking my metrics and my data. And then, of course, being, have enough time to go home, make breakfast, and spend time with the little guy and the wifey before starting on the next part of my day, which after school happens, I do my top three things for the day. Typically, clients don't want you giving them a call or touching base 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. So I like to do that first thing in the morning at 9 o'clock. And then from there, I typically will record or shoot or edit all the content that I need between that 10 to 12 o'clock window. And then afternoons are for meetings and for collaborations with others. So I like to carve out time for that on specific days. Generally, that's going to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then on Mondays and Wednesdays, it's focused more so on meetings for business development. And then I like to take Friday afternoons off. Most people do. At least some of the people I've met in the real estate world take Friday afternoons off. Unless it comes to showing houses, it's generally pretty open for catch up in the morning, and then in the afternoon, just kind of relaxing, winding down, and getting ready for that weekend of showing houses. So.
Exactly. All right, man. This has all been super duper helpful. I really thank you for sharing this stuff. I got one last question for you, and it's more of like an advice question. Can you drop some nuggets that you can give a new agent that's maybe just starting off in their journey? Some key lessons, maybe some big takeaways that you can share?
Absolutely. I think the one thing that I noticed through this process was there are tons of resources and information out there that aren't really a huge cost to you. I know for me, I love, getting books at my public library. I'm always on the go. So like here in Virginia Beach, it's free to have a library card, and they also have an audiobook library that's free to use. So I always like to get audiobooks and listen to those when I'm going to and from properties, when I'm washing dishes or have some downtime, just refilling my mind with things that are, from the classics, to listening to music and just kind of having rest periods where, I'm still actively kind of working my brain, but not necessarily, so task sales driven. And then, of course, finding somebody that is in the same type of work that you are that can really pour into you. For example, when I first started, I really clung to my broker for that first, still kind of do. But for that first year, I was kind of neck and neck with my broker, just trying to figure out, how to grow and develop my business. And then finding somebody within your industry that can provide that support, that has kind of put in the reps, that isn't too far ahead of you as far as sales and volume, that you can kind of follow in their footsteps. They're happy to show you along and figure it out. That's definitely a good resource. And then lastly is in the digital world that we're in, to me, it's always been a no-brainer. Most phones have cameras, most computers do. So at least once or twice a day, record yourself making some content, record yourself, doing a montage of your day. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but looking for opportunities to create information that can be used later on. I recorded hundreds of videos when I first started that I'm still using today, that I have in my if you will, content chest that I have queued up, lined up. So just finding opportunities to create content, to share your story, because that's what helps you be likable. That's what helps you be personable and just relatable in your business in general. I mean, there's nothing fancy between a 1% top producing agent and the average Joe. No pun intended. We're just people, that, want to help serve our community and help make transactions happen. So the finding out your story and how you want to tell that is definitely going to be, extremely beneficial to you in your business, even when you don't have deals in the pipeline, or even, when things may feel slow, because those are great opportunities to build out your own story narrative, before things begin to grow and pick up, because it takes time.
Oh yeah. It's the warrior story. Everyone thinks that it's all like heyday at the end, but sometimes we all have to have that really strenuous struggle. I think Alex Hormozy calls it the Rocky cutscene, where you're just grinding out work, and that's kind of part of the process. Well, hey, Joe, appreciate you hopping on with me and hanging out with me today. Thank you for dropping some knowledge and some science, pseudoscience on the session. Love to have you back, man. Are you cool with that?
Absolutely. That sounds great. Thanks so much for having me on.
All right, cool. And by the way, guys, if you're sticking to the end, if you enjoyed this conversation and you want to hear more from other agents and other people in the industry, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, click that bell icon, get notified whenever we drop new videos. Appreciate your time, guys. Catch you later.